All right, here we go. Welcome to Gene Key 24 and the Shadow of Addiction. We are in the Soul Talk for Sunday, the last day of April, and we're in the Eclipse wormhole. So Gene Key 24 is the shadow of addiction, the gift of invention, and the city of silence. And so today, I'm excited to weave it into the eclipse. The eclipse is the final eclipse of this wormhole that we've been in since the new moon in Aries, the second new moon in Aries in April. And still in April, we're still in April, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, the 19th, 20th to the May 5th, which is the lunar eclipse in Scorpio on a full moon. It's deep. This is deep, deep work. I'm calling it Eclipse Smackdown. Have you ever watched wrestling? I don't really watch it, but I have a nephew and he loves wrestling, and it's always these smackdowns. And I feel like it's the eclipse reckoning, the eclipse smackdown, and all that's actually good. I've turned a corner personally into seeing what it's been about. I was dreading it, and then I was in it, and now I've turned a corner on it. And maybe that's been your path too. Wherever you are, no worries, you're going to get the gold because you're here, you're conscious, you're awake. You want to get the gold, so you will get the gold. And as Rosanna talked about yesterday in the Evolving Sisters membership, we had our May astrology and energy forecast. And she talked about this particular eclipse being so powerful. Like, we're going to have another one in October, but completely different energies than the one we're having now. So let's not lose the moment. And the universe is honorable, so we're not losing the moment, right? We're riding it. And Gene Key 24 is a perfect time to remind us, don't numb out. Don't get distracted. That's an addictive pattern. And chances are you just can't, because everything is so confrontive. It's so confronting right now. It's like at this moment, probably halfway through the eclipse, we're a little over halfway. It's a 2-week period, so a little over halfway, because this eclipse, it culminates in Thursday's full moon lunar eclipse. And again, that's not the end of it. We're going to feel the ripple effects throughout our lifetime, really. This is why it's so important, and it's a game changer. We're changing a cycle. And when we change a cycle as humanity, we have to change who we've been being. We're evolving. And, we talk about in spiritual circles how awesome evolving is. Yay, let's evolve, or I'm evolved. It reminds us that the work of evolution is the work of the shadow. It's the work of going down. It's the work of confronting. Yes, you can spiritually bypass that, and you can be up here with light and love energy. And chances are, if that's what you've been doing, you're going to have a rude awakening, because the universe is honorable. Your soul is honorable. This path is honorable. It's going to ask you to go down. It's going to serve you so much in your faceness that you can't spiritually bypass anymore. You can't numb out anymore. You have to take yourself out, right? And as awakened women, we're not on that path. And so we get to hold space for the world that doesn't have these tools. And that's why so many people here are initiating themselves into the role of healer, the role of teacher, the role of witness, the role of space holder. And we've had to clean up our own crap to do it. You can't be codependent in doing it. It'll wipe you out. So codependency, one of the gene keys we talked about, gosh, I think maybe it's been February, really goes nicely with addiction. So codependent patterns that we are addicted to is what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about it to bring it to the surface, to bring it to the light, so that we get the gold that's available to us and we go up levels in our evolution, in our awareness of consciousness. Now, let me remind everybody that going up a level is both states and stages. That's a Ken Wilber term, and I loved it because when I first learned about the distinctions of evolution, of going up in a worldview, I think I listened to maybe one of Ken Wilber's audios that came through Sounds True, and it just crystallized, like, why are some gurus, and this is kind of in the Piscean era, not self-actualized? They just have a life that is full of drama, chaos, crimes. You know, we've a lot of those have been unearthed already, and we know about that. That's because they achieving a state of enlightenment is not the same as a stage of evolution. So states of enlightenment, yeah, they're fun, they're cool, like astral traveling, non-duality. But I believe that we're here to grow ourselves up. And that's what I'm a teacher of. I'm a teacher of stages. I'm a teacher of conscious evolution. How do we grow ourselves up so that we live powerfully in this lifetime? And then that really opens the inquiry to stages, to states. So once we have really mastered ourselves, meaning we are aware of the operating system, the addictive, codependent operating system of our ego self. And we are consciously bringing it into the light, consciously seeing what we don't want to see. And that enables us to evolve. And when we evolve, lots of people around us go away. They either go with us or they go away because it's got a vibrational quality. And at some point, the stretch between a lower level of evolution and a higher level of evolution means that it's like two ships passing in the night. They really can't understand what you're saying, and it just doesn't land anymore. And this is why in some relationships, when one person does a ton of work on themselves and the other person doesn't do any work on themselves, it ultimately isn't sustainable because the worldviews just increase. Now, it's not a judgment because everything in worldview is included and transcended. That's part of the integral worldview. And I love that, included and transcended. So that means that you can't really skip a worldview. Now you can skip in states, right? You can go straight, you can have a spontaneous experience of your non-dual self walking barefoot on the grass. But in the world of stages, in the world of personal development, everything is included and transcended. It's stair-stepped. And so we really can't judge the people who are on lower worldviews. Like, let's say outer success is a lower worldview. And those people and we've all been there. We've been through times in our life when we want to achieve material goods as a reflection of our worth, of who we are. And then when we include and transcend that, we start to go into relationships. Now we care, because really that stage, I'm messing up my states and stages, that stage doesn't really care about relationships. And we've noticed that on the world scene, the way that the masculine, the patriarchy has done business is from the outer success model. They don't care about other people. It's just, I want it all for myself. and my people, my family, my tribe, my religion. And then we get invited through life. Life is honorable. I mean, that's going to be a theme here. Life is honorable. Our soul is honorable, and will give us so many opportunities to evolve. And then we go into relationships like, outer success. Your relationships are not that good. They're plastic. They're fake. They're inauthentic. And when one person in a relationship starts to wake up, it produces a tectonic effect on the relationship itself. You cannot stay asleep anymore. You transcend your addiction to all the goods, all the things that you can get to numb you out of the truth that your soul wants deeper connection. And then we go into relationships, and there's 7 stages of relationship. And then we go after relationship into inner success. And there are 7 stages of inner success. So you can see, I'm not here to teach that today, maybe sometime, because I love that work. And we can see that there are rungs, there are levels. And the more that we confront ourselves, look at what we don't want to look at, tune in deeply to the deeper call, and start taking action on that deeper call, we automatically go up a worldview. And part of that too is our addiction to projection that starts to wane. When you're on the spiritual path, you start to get over your addiction to blaming other people, to projecting your world onto them. And then space opens up. And so, there's several great systems to work with. So if you're in the middle of working with your judgment about someone else, one of the great works that I loved, the great systems, was Byron Katie's work. Some of you might know her. She wrote a book called Loving What Is. That was her first entry point into the spiritual world. I think I picked up her book in 2000, maybe 3 or 4. And I tell the story that I was at the Boulder bookstore. I opened the book and I look at it, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. Because at that moment, I was projecting a lot on the person that I was in partnership with. It was causing me a lot of suffering, believing that that person was a certain way. So, and let's just say too, that we can become addicted to doing that work and never calling someone out, or never changing the relationship because it doesn't meet us. I mean, this is also a shadow feminine side. So you might notice that you do the work because previously maybe you weren't doing the work and you were blaming and judging, and now you do the work and now you're putting up with so much shit. Right? And so and then we got to learn the other thing. We have to learn how to speak in a way that has hygiene in it, in a way that has truth without blame. Like, I'm noticing that this is what's occurring, and I'm noticing inside myself that causes some contraction. And when I checked in, I realized that's not my truth anymore. I'm not available for that. So you can hear, I mean, I just did that on the fly. You can hear that there's I statements in it. I'm now no longer saying, you're this way, you're that way, you're this way, because I've done the work. And I've looked and I've seen that the source of everything is over here. It's right here. So clean this up and then watch what happens. And then the next stage is there may be a moment. And there are often many moments in our lives because we're here to evolve. And so the tough conversations, we could just keep, as the feminine, we just keep doing our work. Oh, it must be me. It must be me. No, sister. You get to speak your truth. And that's sometimes for the awakening feminine, the hardest piece. And we haven't known how to do that. We haven't known how to clearly say I statements. And we really haven't known up to now how to put a stake in the ground for something. Because we've made excuses for other people. We've made excuses for ourselves. We've made excuses for other people. And so chances are this eclipse is like not letting you have any of that anymore. Deeper truths that maybe you didn't want to know. You didn't want to feel. I know that's happening to me. Just, I would say subtle awarenesses, question marks, or ways that I'm engaged in what I call a strong suit. It's also called a winning strategy. It's the thing that you've become successful. So every person has that, and that operates inside of a paradigm. And that winning strategy, yes, you became successful. Like maybe your winning strategy is I'll do it all myself. Maybe your winning strategy is I'll just give in. I'll let other people have it their way. There's a million winning strategies or a million flavors of probably some very basic winning strategies, just like our core wounds. They're just basic ones. And then we have lots of ways that it shows up for you, shows up for me. And it's subtle, it's brilliant. It'll shape shift. And so it looks like I'm doing the thing, but really I'm doing my winning strategy. It's the way inside the matrix that I got successful, that I kept the peace, that I didn't get called out, that I didn't have to lose anything, that I can keep my marriage that's not working and maintain some peace. For example, it's the negotiation that you've made with yourself on how you can have both things, the thing that's not good for you, and also you don't have to confront. And I'm using those terms broadly because it's always, there's so much complexity inside of them. And that's another way, the shadow of complexity, where we make everything so freaking complicated that our mind can't figure its way out of a paper bag. And so in those moments, we get to be silent. And that's the city of 25 is silent. Stop. Just stop. That's like one of my go-tos when my back is against the wall and nothing's working because my strong suit has got me. I mean, that's what strong suits do. That's what winning strategies do. They get you to a certain point and then they're done. They don't work anymore. So if you've noticed that you've plateaued or what used to work doesn't work, that's absolutely good news, even though it's hard. Because the gift of invention is outside of the matrix. The gift of invention, it says to us that the world is really a luminous void. Silence, the city of silence. But the cool part about it is that silence isn't silent. It's not that deafening silence. Like Richard Rudd called this out, and I thought it was freaking amazing. He talked about digital silence. That's silence. In the modern ones and zeros. That silence that you feel when you're depressed, when you feel disenfranchised and not connected to other people, when you're living in your head and you're looping, that silence is terrifying. But the true silence, the city of silence, is the luminous void. So 2 years ago, I was in a cave in the ground in Mayan land. And inside the cave, it's a cenote There are stalactites and stalagmites because there's water underneath the earth. And so we crawled on our bellies through the mud to get to this opening. We walked through the water with clay, put clay all over our bodies. And then we came to an altar and we lit candles at the altar inside the earth. And we were silent. And there was, if you've ever been inside of a cave, it's the most delicious silence ever. That silence has a frequency to it. It has a texture to it. It has an aliveness to it. And the three of us inside of that cave just spontaneously stopped talking because our soul was hungry for that silence. It's nourishing in that place. It's the luminous void. The luminous void is not void. It's aliveness inside of the luminous void. And that's how we know we're in truth, because it's a paradox. We can't name it in words. We only have the words luminous void. And maybe that's where we can experience that palatable feeling of love as a substrate, as the nature of the universe. We can feel that in the silence. And so from that silence is invention. And invention is from nothing, no thing. It's not from your strong suit. It's not how you got successful up to now. It's not how you kept the peace up to now. And I'm going to consider that success. Like that was your way. It's not. Invention steps outside of that. In fact, it's a whole new realm. It's like imagining yourself stepping out of that into a whole new realm of nothing. You don't bring that with you. So when you imagine yourself in that place, that's actually the truth of it. The only thing that keeps the past looping is our untrained mind. And so what's the first step? We just see that, oh, there it is, the untrained mind. Got it. It's doing that thing again. It thinks it has the winning formula and it's going to do it. Got it. Yeah. And there's no judgment in any of that. That's just how the machine works. That's how the ego machine works. So we get to like, got it. I'm not going to try to change that. You know, we've been upgrading our ego machine, so things are a little cleaner and clearer. But then there's something else that Gene Key 24 says. There's some other possibility. Like the magic hasn't even really started. The magic is when we step into no thing and we ask the question, what else is possible? Who am I now? Who am I now? And that's really bringing all of that home. All of the ways that we have been running through the shadow of addiction, running from ourselves, running from the truth. And I'm in there, I'm included. I'm super included. I noticed, and it's like something that is always happening. So there's not a stage where that never happens again. It's just an adeptness. It's a skillfulness now of catching it, of noticing when I'm looping, noticing when that winning strategy is no longer working. So part of my eclipse ritual is, and oftentimes this is my ritual when that happens, when I kind of come up to another layer of growth in the spiral. And I'm doing the things that I always do, work hard, put my head down, focus, all the things that I do. And then I notice it's not working. Then I surrender. Just lay out on the floor, lay out on the grass, let the tears roll down my cheeks because it feels like a release. It's good. It's that moment where we're just like, oh, I was fighting. I was trying. And now I can actually let go because I'm not getting any feedback that it's working. And that you may be running into that with your children. You may be running up with like your finances or your job or your relationship with your adult child. It just doesn't matter, what form it takes. Underneath it, it's the same surrender. Come to that moment, laying on your back, opening up, saying, okay, I got it. I'm going to let go. I'm going to surrender. And just take that moment to feel the release, whether it's tears or whether it's laughter that comes through. And then what else is possible? Who am I now? And really you don't even have to fill the space. You can stay in the void, stay in the silence. Part of my contemplation for this was yesterday. I drove a couple hours to this. I'm in this incredible, my friend's property. And everything is in super bloom and green and extraordinary. And I would have never done this because I'm in the middle of building something that's important to me. And I would have been like, no, I got to keep my head down. I got things to do. And I'm very good at that. But I knew the way to contemplate this Gene Key was in silence, like get on the road. Don't listen to anything, just be. And then I go through these magical pastures of green rolling hills and horses and flowers and sunshine. And it's like the bounty and the blessing of Mother Earth, which is the true nourishment and sustainment. I don't know if that's a word, but that's what's coming through. It's like the sustainment of our humanity. And so humanity is going to have to reinvent itself. Invention is the gift that follows the shadow of addiction. So the ways that we have numbed out, the ways that we have become like that frenetic busy, like a gambler, like that kind of like frenetic busy. And then all the flavors that show up in our lives as awakened women. I mean, we get to admit, like we have addiction going on. Every single person does. And the main thing we are collectively addicted to is social media. And it's programmed to get you addicted to it. It's programmed, knowing exactly how our brain works to trigger all the chemicals to get us wanting more and more, to take us further and further and further away. And I'm not a person that, like, I think all that is like technology in and of itself without the programming overlays are neutral. And the programming overlays are things that are now part of a reality that I get to be awake to. And I get to choose inside of how I want to be. And I really didn't take it that seriously until I started seeing the rise of AI and how AI is playing out in our worlds. And this is a whole other, I'm not going to go into that in this one, but I'm going to seed the theme. And the theme is, what does it mean to be human? And so on this eclipse moment, as we are coming to the apex, the crescendo of this time, it is really an opportunity for evolution. The deep scorpionic things, like the things that are so hidden, that are secret, that you even can't see, the unconscious, the dark, Scorpio is going to just bring it front and center. The ways that we're in debt, the ways that we've made money or not made money, the ways that we are in relationship with others. And again, go back to Rosanna inside the portal and listen to the transmission for May. One of the things she said is that May is a very decisive month. So we're on the precipice as humanity. Each one of you individually are making decisions in your personal life that affect the collective, and your consciousness matters. Your work matters. So the work that you're doing, the fact that you're here, it all matters. And I love what Eckhart Tolle said is no gains in consciousness are lost. So the more we wake up to who and what we really are, the more that we allow ourselves to sit in silence and receive a new download of who we get to be, not from the past, but as an invention, as a co-created invention of our beingness, then we get to make choices. And again, we're going to run up against our patterns, all the grooves that we've put in place over the last years and decades. But all of that with neuroplasticity, we know all of that gets to transform. It gets to change. It takes commitment. It takes diligence. And it's grace. It takes grace. We are not alone. And we don't have to do this alone. So I'm going to end there. Thank you for being here and for being on this most auspicious journey. We're going to dance it out on Thursday. So the eclipse is Friday, the 5th of May. It's not an eclipse in the United States. We're not going to be able to see it. But if I think Australia, it's actually fairly wide from what I've read. But mostly like more southern hemisphere, I think parts of Asia, I think you'll have to look and see if you're in the pathway of a total lunar eclipse, but we're not, but we're going to receive the energies of that, we being we in the United States. But that's our crescendo moment. And on the 4th, the day before at noon Pacific time, California time, we're going to do a shadow dance. A shadow dance is not a regular dance, although it's a dance. We're going to move our bodies, but we're going to be prompted to move our bodies through some cycles of shadow material. And it is one of the most fun things. I usually do it at Halloween, because you can wear costumes and maybe I will do that this Halloween. But for now, it's just a perfect moment. So mark it on your calendars. If you're inside of the membership, it's free. You can, if you're not inside the membership, for those listening on the replay, it's just a nominal amount to join us and just dance it out, move it out. If you're following the Moon and You PDF, I don't oftentimes plan things like by reading. So I read for the full moon eclipse, and it was like, and I wrote that back in, I think, December, and I said, dance it out. So I'm taking up my own advice, and we've got a dance happening, and that it's just going to feel so good to our embodiment to really move through some shadow materials and to shake it off, because this is an incredible opportunity to massively evolve. So thanks for being here. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we're going to have our sister activation circle.